I think a new team has arrived in the AFC West, and their name is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it!
Herbert fires open, making the grab. Mike Williams down the sideline. 17-yard line, look out again. Carr, intercepted!
And we're back with another episode of the Shock Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Lawrence at LAC Master Bowl. I got Zach Alfers here with me at Zach Alfers. Padres made the playoffs.
I know.
Padres hat.
I had to. I don't know how long we're going to be in these playoffs, but I'm happy we made it. Just the 7th time in franchise history. I'm happy. I'm excited. I have not been paying any attention really since the Tatis news came out. I've just been so off put by the baseball they've been playing. Just super let down all season and took a break. And now it's October. Anything can change. Got a tough task in the Mets, but hey, I had to represent.
Hey, let's go though. We're Padres back in the playoffs where they should be. They're too talented of a team. They were making me a little nervous toward the beginning of the month.
Very nervous.
Let's talk about some football. The Chargers and the Texans. Overall, I think that the Chargers came out hot. They came out real hot. Got out to a 27-7 lead at one point, and then managed to let the Texans back into the game just about before putting it away kind of in the closing minutes. We have a lot to talk about with this game. I think where you got to start is Jamaree Salyer at left tackle. What a phenomenal performance. 6th-round draft pick. Nobody expected him to come out and really just play the way he did. He was PFF's highest graded pass blocker in week 4 and is at the top, the very, very top after one game in terms of all the stats. I want to say it was like a 90.4 offensive grade. What an outstanding performance by our rookie left tackle. And I kind of want to get your thoughts, like, what is the probability you think that he just takes over the right tackle position next season or gets slotted in at right tackle over Trey Pipkins if Rashawn Slater does, in fact, come back this season? They did leave a IR designated to return later, probably much, much later, maybe more of a playoff push. What are your chances of Jamaree Salyer actually just taking that spot?
It's tough, right? Because it's tough because Trey, I think, has played very well. Sawyer, absolutely dominant. Didn't allow a single pressure in his first NFL action. Didn't really play a whole lot of tackle even throughout the preseason, right? It wasn't something we were really even giving him a chance to show us what he could do there. So very unexpected from Sawyer's performance. I really want to get in the mind of this coaching staff because I really don't know what their long-term projection is, because I think you have a couple options. You can put Salyer, see how he does with starting minutes at the right tackle, but I think you also have a glaring hole there at the left guard position that used to be very, very strong in Matt Filer. He's an older guy who's kind of declining, who also has tackle versatility, so I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. I think there's a definite chance. I think you're going to hear the coach speak early in the offseason. We're going to let our guys play. But I think you have several different options. I think you could put him back at left guard, have Filer be kind of our rotational swing tackle type of guy, or you could just roll the dice, let Filer kind of prove himself because he is a proven vet. I think he's just kind of stumbling out the gate. I think there's a lot of options. I think he deserves to play, is my point. Find a position for this kid to play because he's an absolute baller. It's so funny. We took 2 years trying to reconstruct this offensive line and absolutely nailed our 3 picks between Slater, Zion Johnson and now Sawyer joining the mix. Give me 2 more years of this, and we're going to have a dominant offensive line. I don't know the chances of him starting at right tackle, but you need to find a place for this kid to play starting minutes.
He's been just way too good in just one game, and the fact that he hasn't played tackle since the college football playoff last year, didn't play it at all during camp. They didn't even think that was going to be a possibility. And then for them to go out there and just go, you know what? We don't trust Storm Norton. Let's go ahead and throw the rookie out there and let's just see how he does. It's not a very dominant defensive line with the Texans.
Sure.
So I thought it was like a really good game for him to just build confidence, because he's going to be going up against the best of the best, Myles Garrett, next week. And you build up his confidence. He's on a high right now. He has to be. We'll see how he ends up playing against Myles Garrett. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. I also want to touch on the fact that you just talked about Matt Filer. Really, that's kind of the biggest hole on this roster right now. And he's an established veteran, way too good to be even. So he's got the most pressures allowed of any offensive lineman in the NFL. 13 hurries, 15 pressures. He's given up only 1 sack, 1 hit, but he has not been very good in pass protection, and he has not been good against the run either. In the run game either. He's been letting guys get across his face.
Yeah.
What is going on with Matt Filer here?
You know what? Don't have a good answer for you. I know he's not playing good football, and it's something I don't think anyone really expected. That was like a lock, right? Like our left side of the line to Corey Linsley. That's going to be dominant for us. It was last year. Obviously, Slater went down, but Filer has been a shell of himself. I don't know if it's age catching up to him or what. Maybe, I have no idea. I'm making excuses for the guy. He needs to play better. I bet he would tell you the same thing if he would bless us to come on this podcast and talk for himself. But I don't know. I don't recognize the guy. I think he's just kind of stumbling, kind of having a rough start. And I think it kind of reflects on, the whole this whole Charger team right now is kind of hot and cold. And so maybe he's just, kind of waiting it out, trying to figure out. I think there's a lot of figuring it out who this team wants to be. I think we thought we had a direction of where we were going last season. Kind of, for whatever reason, not sticking to the script, I guess you could say, this season, still figuring some things out. So maybe it's just a lot of new for him. I don't know. I'm right now just making excuses because what I'm seeing is unrecognizable from the guy we saw last year who played really, really well.
This is kind of interesting. So of the players that have played a minimum of 50% of the total snaps at offensive guard, your worst 3 graded offensive players is Liam Eichenberg, Matt Filer, and Laken Tomlinson. And then I'm looking at this is also something kind of interesting. So Matt Filer's offensive grade is 39.8, which is absolutely horrendous. But the worst graded players, they're all left guards from Liam Eichenberg down to Cordell Volson. There's 9 players are at the bottom of the list. They're all on the left side, which is a little interesting. I'm not really looking too much into it, but Laken Tomlinson is another player that's on there. That's a little strange to see him there because he is an outstanding guard. What is up with the slow starts here from some of these position guys?
It's just a funky year. I mean, I think you've seen, and I'm kind of equating it to the NBA because NBA every offseason has just this tremendous flip of talent, superstar going to another team and vice versa, just a tremendous swapping of talent. And so it takes about a quarter of the season for teams to kind of get in rhythm, especially those guys who go out and acquire superstars, try to figure out how to put them in a rotation. We've seen something similar this year in the NFL. That offseason was crazy. Lots of power shifts, lots of all-pro, changing coasts, changing teams, changing divisions, moving within the division, a lot of acquisition, so a lot of new. You got the Giants at 3-1. You got the Dolphins at 3-1. A lot of just stuff that we weren't expecting. The Patriots at 1-3, like there's a lot. It's just a weird, funky year, and I think it has a lot to do with that offseason, with a lot of bodies switching and changing teams, changing schemes, changing coaching staff. So I think it's just a response to a crazy offseason. The left guards need to figure it out, though. That's interesting that you bring that up. But those first two guys you got sandwiched in front of and behind Filer are all very young guys. So I think that's a little worrisome. The position group's obviously having a tough time, but those young guys, you'd expect it from a veteran like Matt Filer. You'd expect him to be a little more resilient, be able to handle change like this.
At least average, at best, or at worst, average. So I don't know. Right now, that is the weakness of this offensive line. It's affecting the run game pretty significantly. He's letting guys just get through him into his gap. It's just not what you would expect to see from Matt Filer. It's just so strange to see. Going back to the Chargers game, your top three offensive graded players, Jamari Sawyer, Michael Bandy, who had an outstanding just 2 catches at the end of the first half, allowed them to kind of get up into field goal range and get some extra points at the end of the game. And then Justin Herbert had another great game. He had a 72.9, couple impressive throws, almost had an interception, which didn't look all that great. But in the end, came through with his 7th consecutive 300-yard road game. That's pretty incredible. He's going to have a chance to go and break that record this week against the Browns. We'll get into that a little bit. But what did you think of the game, how he came out, and kind of what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, love the start. I mean, are you going to tell – you're never going to not say no to a 20-something lead out of the gate. But I think it's a reoccurring theme now with the Staley team. We start hot. We can play 2.5, 3 quarters of really good football, and let teams who have no business competing with us back in the game. And we were talking about it last week when we had Gabby on. I want to bury some teams, and we got out. It looked like we were rolling. Halftime is just an absolute killer for us. Every bit of momentum we seem to build up in that first half kind of just dies. We were lucky we were able to pull it out in the fourth, but that second half performance is not an effort or a level of production that you're going to need to knock off the Chiefs on the AFC top of the AFC West, or to beat playoff teams deep when we get into January, December time. So I'm glad we got I'm glad we got the Texans in this time frame. It was starting to get kind of bleak there. 2 straight losses. A third would probably be really brutal at this point in the year. Got back in the win column, so that's good. I love the start. Need to start figuring out how to finish teams. And I think, and how we figure that out, I really don't know. Because I love the first half Chargers. Love it. I'll watch it all day. Second half Chargers, it is a letdown. You could hear it in my voice. As soon as I said second half Chargers, all air came out of my chest. They need to finish teams, man.
Yeah, so the other thing we got to talk about, the Chargers run game, 27 carries, 81 yards, 3.0 per average. But that is not good enough. No. Yeah, we got over what we've been doing like recently, but there's still a lot of plays getting stopped in the backfield. Austin Eckler had 2 rushing touchdowns on the game, and they were long runs, like 15, 20-yard gains, making guys miss. Joshua Kelly still hasn't been getting very many carries overall. They went to Sonny Michel quite a bit in the second half. They gave him 6 carries. He ended up with 11 yards. Granted, those carries were to move the chains. I want to say like 3 or 4 of them went for first downs. But the run game against the worst run defense in the NFL is still not getting to where it needs to be. And there's still a long season left to go. Is it the offensive line? Is it the running backs? It was nice to see Austin Eckler get back involved into the run. He had 3 touchdowns. Like, that's outstanding production. Yeah. But it's not consistent production. Splash plays are great here and there, but we need to be consistently better in the run game. And I think it's affecting our play calling overall. Teams are sitting back into coverage. They're not afraid. There's no threat on the ground. I'll give up 27 carries for 81 yards any day of the week. That's not a bad stat line, especially because outside of a couple splash plays, Austin Eckler's 2 touchdown runs, I want to say that was about it in terms of like good yardage there. I mean, we're just not consistent enough in the run game, and it's really affecting the offense overall. If Justin Herbert's not going for 340 yards, this is a much closer game where we're losing.
Yeah. And I think a part of that is the injuries on the offensive line. But more than that, the fact that we haven't been able to see all 3 of our tight ends play in this game, who are very pivotal to the run game. Trey McKitty's been banged up. We haven't seen Donald Parham, who's also very effective in that. Gerald Everett's been playing well, but I think Parham and McKitty are just much better blockers than they are. And they're so pivotal in Lombardi's scheme on being able to move the ball effectively. Now, what I will say about the run game is it wasn't as effective as I'd like to see, but at least we ran the ball. At least we made the Texans, they made their plays, but at least we made them think there was a possibility of us running. Those first 3 weeks, we ran the ball to the same kind of production and then went away from it. And it was just all pass. At least we actually ran the ball. It wasn't the yardage we wanted, but that opened up the play action a lot better than it did the first 3 weeks. Still got to be productive. And once we get that run game kind of flowing the way this pass offense is, watch out. We're going to be putting up 50 points a game. This offense will be very explosive once we can get this run game going. I think it's just a matter of time. I think guys are hungry. I think we're getting some bodies back that are going to help, especially the Parhams, and getting McKitty back fully healthy. But I think health right now is a really big deterrent for this team, because it seems like every time we're going to get a piece back, now we see Gerald Everett on the injury report for this year, when we're expecting Parham to be back. We were expecting to be full strength, and now we're going to go in a man down. So I think it's just the nature of the game. But it's just frustrating when you're a team who wants to run the football, who has quality players to be able to do that. It's just not working out the way you'd like. So as a fan, it's super frustrating to see week in and week out.
Gerald Everett's been phenomenal in his first couple of games. Like, he's been really, really – I don't think people understand the difference from Jared Cook to Gerald Everett.
Baller.
And I know he was listed on the injury report with a hamstring injury. I'll talk about that in a sec. I'm not sure how serious it is because he finished the game, I'm pretty sure. Mike Williams had 11 targets, 7 receptions, 120 yards. It's nice to see him rolling, get him moving.
Mm-hmm.
But Derek Stingley was injured. He had a cast on his arm, and he was playing through it, which is great to see. But I think a lot of the production that he was seeing was the fact that Derek Stingley's not able to get his arm in there. Those were contested catches for the most part. You had the one catch and run, 50-yard long. Chargers caught the Texans defense in a really bad zone situation. Mike Williams was all by himself. You take that 50 yards out, 7 for 70 yards or 6 for 70 yards. Most of that production was on one play, but still contested catches. Austin Eckler still getting 6 receptions, 49 yards. We'll take that. Michael Bandy had his too, but most of the passing game went through Mike Williams and Gerald Everett. And I don't know if Keenan Allen's going to be coming back because he still didn't practice yesterday. Keenan Allen didn't practice today. He's got tomorrow to get at least limited practice, and I don't think Keenan Allen's coming in this game. So I think we're going to run with the same type of situation we've been running with since week 2. It's going to be DeAndre Carter. It's going to be Gerald Everett if Gerald Everett gets healthy. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday. I still think he's going to be good to go. In terms of the rest of the injury report, Justin Herbert was a full practice. Dustin Hopkins came up with a quadricep on his kicking leg. The Chargers did sign a free agent castaway, basically is what he is. He's been on since 2016. I want to say he's been on like 5 or 6 different practice squads. not really super stoked about that. The only other player that found himself on the injury report that's somewhat concerning is Joshua Palmer. So the Chargers are banged up in the wide receiver room with Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer. You got Gerald Everett, who is listed on the injury report. You got Trey McKitty, who is still a full participant, but he's dealing with the quad issue. Kyle Van Noy's got a back injury. He was a full practice, and then it looks like Donald Parham's making his way back. Overall, though, you were talking about it, like the injuries are concerning. They're starting to pile up a little bit. It seems like as we're, getting back to health, it's just not quite fast enough, and we're getting hit with other things as we're starting to get a little more healthy. One thing that I did kind of want to note, our cornerback, J.C. Jackson, is not listed on the injury report, but
he looked phenomenal on Sunday.
I mean, he gave up one touchdown? No, that wasn't this week. I don't remember him really.
I thought he played really well.
I thought that Asante Samuel played really well. Asante Samuel is the player that stood out to me. What a player, by the way. He's a little guy. I think he's like 5'10", 198 pounds, and he made some really incredible tackles on Sunday. A lot of tackles out in space. I think that the Chargers actually came out and actually put out like a little highlight film of him making some tackles with Derwin James talking him up, which is kind of a good segue. Let's talk about this Chargers defense. Mm-hmm. Outside the one big run, the 75-yard touchdown, I thought overall they played really well. They were getting pressure on the quarterback. Yeah. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Kenneth Murray.
K9 had a game. Drew Tranquil is just the what do you call it? The backstop back there. 11 tackles that game, racking them up. Derwin was all over the place. 2 pass deflections in the backfield. Who else stood out to me? Asante Samuel had a hell of a game. Nas Adderley finally comes down with a pick. I hope that kind of sparks some confidence into a young player kind of just trying to find his way in the league. Khalil Mack gets home for a sack. Morgan Fox, I thought, had a really good game. And then a guy I know you have had a lot of beef with, I thought Tillery, while he was in the game, played one of his better games.
He graded 92.7 for a defensive grade. He had the one strip sack, which was just a huge hit. That was huge. Chargers couldn't capitalize, couldn't recover it. I'm still not that impressed. You take a couple of those plays out, it wasn't that impressive.
I thought he had a decent game. But I really do think
it's
defense,
the Texans. Like, I'm not that impressed.
That's fine. We'll see.
Kenyon Green is not playing very well right now. So it's not a product of his ability as much as it is being a 4th-year player going up against a rookie.
Fine, but it's positive. Like, how negative?
It's positive. I'll take the positive. I'm still not impressed.
If he didn't go home for that sack and he didn't have a 90 grade, you'd be saying the exact same thing as a knock against him. He didn't perform against a good team. So at least
he made
performing against a bad team. All right.
He made his plays. He still only played 26 total snaps in the game, which is fine. 21 of those were pass rushing.
That's my point, is that he looked good doing what he does well.
Which is getting after the quarterback as a 3-tech.
Yeah.
But he did not get involved in the run game. He wasn't even involved because he only played 5 running snaps.
Well, and that's good. I mean, and that's why
his knock, right?
But that's why we spent $70 million on a defensive line. Like, it's not his job. We got guys to help affect that. Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. Morgan Fox is a beast. This guy needs to come back and play more football in the powder blue. I am a big Morgan Fox fan.
Yeah, I think that defense was kind of all over the place, making plays all over the field. You get into it, like Asante Samuel was targeted 8 times, gave up 3 receptions for 43 yards. I'll take that all day. And he was lined up against Brandon Cooks all game. And he played himself pretty well against Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks had himself a day. I want to say he had, how many receptions did Brandon Cooks have? 7 receptions, 57 yards. So most of it was all short stuff, had the 1 touchdown. And he was targeted 7 times. So he was making every single opportunity that he had coming through. And he's really like the lone star on this Texans offense. Even Laramie Tunsil hasn't been playing up to par. But the defense, I think that the defense is coming together pretty well. I don't want to be giving up 24 points a game but against the Texans, but I think that I'm not worried is kind of where I'm getting at. I'm really not worried about how the Chargers are performing on defense.
No,
Any closing remarks on this game before we get into the Browns?
Just that it was a good building block. Nowhere near where I'd like to see them, and nowhere near where I think they want to be. But I thought it was a good building block. They took strides to get to where we need to be, which is a playoff football, Super Bowl contending team. And we're getting very, very close. I'm excited. Bring on the Browns. Let's talk about it.
And I think the Browns is going to be a really, really tough matchup. When you think about it, like they have some stars. You talk about Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, and then they have the absolute best offensive line in the NFL. Jedrick Wills, Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, and then their Ethan Pocket. I don't know how to say his name. And then defensively, Myles Garrett is where it starts, and he's coming back from his car accident. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Denzel Ward.
That's right. I forgot he got in a car accident.
He did, and he is back this week. He's fresh, really, if you think about it.
Animal. Go ahead.
He is. But really, the strength of this team is on the offensive line. And I think that they play old school football. They pull every single player off the line. They pull them into this gap scheme, and everybody's coming over. And when you got Nick Chubb, who's able to squeeze through the tiniest of holes, he gets upfield, he breaks tackles. But then you got this really athletic offensive line who can get out in space and get to the linebackers. They can get to the safeties. This is going to be the toughest matchup yet for this interior defensive line we constructed during the offseason. Sebastian Joseph Day, Morgan Fox, Austin Johnson, they're going to earn their paycheck this week. That's their whole reason they were brought in, was to prevent this really, really good offensive line. And what we need to do is we need to stay really, really disciplined to our gaps if we're going to be effective this game. And the Browns, they run so much off of their run game. They run a lot of play action, misdirection off of it. They like to throw tight end screens. They really, really like to use the threat of their run game to set up their pass. And I think that they have a really, really good play calling system that comes out of their runs. You're talking about like the premier run offense in the history of the National Football League. Like, this is as good as it absolutely gets. You got two running backs who can slice and dice. They got power, they got speed, they got agility, and they're very, very instinctive runners. I think that Kareem Hunt could be a starter for 25 teams in this league, and he's their backup. That's insane. It's absolutely insane. And if the Chargers are going to have any success, it's going to be in that $70 million that they spent on the interior of the defensive line. That's the whole reason we spent all that money there. Now we got to prove it. Now we got to see, did we bring in the right pieces? And is Jerry Tillery going to play a single snap?
He might not. This is not a good matchup for Tillery. But talking about the defensive line, I think they played I think the defensive line defending the run, they're playing very much. I think they're a lot better than our defensive line last season. Now, I really think the issue here is the second and the third level against the run. I think the linebacking core has played okay. I feel like these big runs are sprung because the secondary is not finishing, wrapping up in open field, and that's going to be huge because these guys do not go down on first contact much. We are going to need multiple hats to the football. We are going to need to swarm like you started to see it in that Texans game. This isn't fill your gap, you got it, take Chubb to the ground kind of game. This is don't have trust in that guy. Go finish the tackle yourself. If you're in pursuit, you got to get over there. This is going to be 3 to 4 guys on the ball carrier at all times type of game. And that's the kind of effort that we're going to need to slow these guys down, because I do not want to get in the firefight that we did last year. Now, that was fun. We were in attendance. I don't want this game to have 100 total points. I do not. I don't think it's a good – I think you slow them down, and the way you do that is effort to the football, and you do not stop until you hear that whistle and you're confident that whistle has been blown and that guy's on the ground.
So their tight ends and the running backs of this offense make up 70% of their total yardage. They get everything through the ground, and they get everything out of play action. And their only other real threat, Amari Cooper, makes up the other 30% of that offense almost. You talk about Donovan Peoples-Jones, Harrison Bryant. They'll get a couple targets here and there, but really, if it's not a tight end and it's not a running back, it's Amari Cooper. And that's really their entire game plan. Amari Cooper hasn't been super successful either. 66% completion rate when he was targeted. That's not all that great overall. They do get Harrison Bryant involved in the pass game. If it's not Njoku, it's Harrison Bryant. Donovan Peoples-Jones, not really the biggest threat. Also only a 54% completion rate when targeted. It's all running backs, tight ends, and Amari Cooper. And this pass blocking unit, this offensive line, is ranked 4th in the NFL. So when they're not running the ball, they're being effective at keeping the quarterback clean, which is why Jacoby Brissett has played so well. We are very, very, very lucky that it's Jacoby Brissett and not Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. No. You're right, because if you think about just the pass catching options, it's a very good matchup. You just stick Derwin on Njoku, let whoever you think has the hot hand, whether that be Samuel or JC, to shadow Amari, and what else do you got? So I'm not worried about this Browns passing attack. You have to be 100% focused on stopping their 2 running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think that is a luxury. You don't have a lot of teams that are so one-dimensional, especially with the way the rest of those matchups shake out. Like I was saying, I think we win every other matchup across the board one-on-one. And so what is the recipe there? Get out to a big lead, force them to abandon the pass. I think that forces Jacoby Brissett's hand, a guy who likes to be patient, going to force him into some errant throws, because he's not the most accurate passer of the football. I think that part of it favors the Chargers, and that's why you build a deep team. One-dimensional teams are only going to get you so far, and I think that's what you've seen from the Browns, because they are so unpredictable. Like, just look at the games they played coming out the gate. Played a really good game to the Panthers. I didn't think that should have been as close as it was, but that was a good game. I ended up winning that one. I thought they dropped a very close game to the Jets, which I thought they should have easily won. Come out and dominate against the Steelers, who are another one of those unpredictable teams. And then dropped a very winnable game last week against the Falcons. So I think that goes back into my point, is that this team is very one-dimensional. Now, that one dimension is our Chargers defense weakness. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Going over their injury report, Joel Bitonio did not practice on Wednesday, was limited on Thursday. Taven Bryant limited. Harrison Bryant limited. Jadeveon Clowney is kind of an X factor for them. He hasn't practiced in 2 days in a row, and he has been super effective. I'm going to talk about their defensive PFF stats in a sec. Amari Cooper is a full go. Jack Conklin didn't practice on Wednesday, didn't practice on Thursday. That's another big player for them on the offensive line. On the interior of their defensive line, Jordan Elliott's been limited. Myles Garrett's back to practice. I know he's limited, but he's going to play. Like, without any doubt, he's going to play. David Njoku was a full participant. Jeremiah Wosu Koromoa, really good linebacker, safety hybrid player for them. He was limited. And then Denzel Ward was limited as well. Going over their top graded defensive players, like I said, it starts with Myles Garrett, 91.6. But in the 2 games Jadeveon Clowney has played, he's been super effective as well. He's got 2 sacks, 6 total pressures in those 2 games, and he's got an 89.2 defensive grade. They got some other players. Sione Takitaki is a linebacker who's been playing kind of at a similar fashion of our linebacker. I'm blanking on his name. What's our linebacker's name?
Which one? Kenneth Murray?
Drew Tranquil. So he's kind of a similar player. My bad. He's kind of a similar player to Drew Tranquil. He's a really good coverage guy who is better than people expect against the run. I think that those 2 players actually play like a really, really similar game. I talked about Koromoa, and then they also have probably one of the best and brightest uprising cornerbacks in the NFL. Denzel Ward had a phenomenal interception against the Falcons, undercuts their rookie wide receiver. This could be a dangerous unit. We talked about it last year. Like, it's a very young defense with rising stars all over the place. So
right. Well, and
it is a little nerve-wracking
to
because any player on that defense could have the hot hand that week and make you pay by making a play. So,
and it's a dangerous recipe, especially going up against what we thought was going to be a strength, our receiving core, which is severely banged up. And I think what you're seeing right now is Keenan Allen is that man. You say what you want. Look at the Chargers offense with him and without him. It is so far transformed. And what does he do? He can't be guarded one-on-one. You can't stop him. We need that back. We need that guy back so bad.
So I really think that this defense, I don't think Keenan Allen's going to play this week.
I don't think he is.
He hasn't gotten to practice. He came up limping in practice last week, and they decided to keep him out.
Yeah, he won't play until he gets a full season or a full week of practice in, whether that be limited, whatever. I don't think he's going to suit up in a game until he gets a full week of practice. I just think that's kind of how Staley likes to operate.
You talk about Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Sione Takitaki, Denzel Ward. They also have a really good duo of safeties, Grant Delpit, John Johnson, Greg Newsome's out there. This is not a bad defense. This is going to be a much better test. Probably the best defense we've seen coming into, the 5th week of the season overall. And they have some superstars there. So it is a little nerve-wracking, especially with the health of our offense. We know Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett's a little banged up. It's going to be a challenge. So what is kind of your key matchup that you're trying to exploit?
Exploitation matchup. Let's see. I mean,
while you're thinking about it, I also kind of wanted to bring this up. With our new left tackle, I'm really excited to see how he plays against Myles Garrett, because I think Myles Garrett's going to have his way with him, but I want to know how he responds. How does he compete? It's going to be a matchup I'm watching really, really closely, because the Georgia Bulldogs, man, they just breed athletes and they breed competition. And you're talking about a player who, saw that Georgia defense every day in practice, and not a single one of those guys is Myles Garrett. But in terms of seeing the best competition week in and week out, Jamari Sawyer is got the best foundation of any rookie offensive lineman in the NFL, because he saw those boys every day for practice. He played in the SEC and he handled his own. He's coming off the Houston game with some confidence. I'm really, really excited to see the Myles Garrett matchup, because they're going to line him up over him. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
A blindside edge rusher? Absolutely. On a rookie 6th-round draft pick? Absolutely. And I want to know how he responds. That's a matchup I'm not looking to exploit by any means, because that's going to go the opposite direction. But I do want to see, how does he play in, 40 pass blocking snaps against Myles Garrett? How many does he give up? And I expect him to give up some. I expect every player to give up something to Myles Garrett, but I want to see how he responds and what the
To getting
Chargers
beat.
do to help him. How much of
Sure.
running backs are going to be chipping in that direction. So that's going to be something that I think that everybody needs to watch and see how does that play out.
And I think that's very interesting that you bring that up, because think about our left tackle matchup last year. It was a real breakout party for Rashawn Slater, who I thought had a phenomenal game against Myles Garrett, to the point where, hey, chipping doesn't help me. Stop chipping him. I got it, coach. Like that was the all pro in the making right there. Right after week, what was it, 4 or 5 last season? Was it week 5?
I think it was the Browns game last year.
It was, but it was early in the season too.
I think it was week 4.
Yeah, I think you're right. Either way, we had a coming out party for our left tackle last year. I don't think it is a coming out party per se. I don't think he's going to be as dominant, but I expect him to play well, and I agree with you. I would like to see him. He's going to get beat once or twice. I want to see his resilience and how he responds. And to help him out, I think we need I think we need to get the ball out quick again. I don't want to sit back there and let Herbert wait for the deep shot to develop. I think the coverage linebackers that you mentioned, Joku and Taki, are really good. So I'm not really expecting a big game from Eckler. I think he'll get his, but not to the point where I want him to be the focal point. I'm very interested to see how unhealthy or healthy Gerald Everett is, and how productive Parham can be in his return, because we haven't had 2 legit receiving threats at the tight end position for a while. I like Denzel Ward. I like Grant Delpit, but I think being able to be close to the quarterback, being able to find that soft coverage in the zone, and just getting the ball out of Herbert's hand fast kind of delays that pass rush, kind of prevents them from being able to just pin their ears back and keyhole us in key situations. And so I think that's going to be my exploitation matchup. Get our tight ends going. If Gerald Everett, for whatever reason, isn't able to go, we're going to need a big showing from Parham. But I really excited to see both of those guys going, seeing some double tight end sets, because I think that's going to be my exploitation. I don't want to put it to the outside, because I really respect this defensive, the cornerbacks themselves, between Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and then they got a young rookie in Martin Emerson, who I think shouldn't be slept on. I think he's a good player in the making as well.
He is. Martin Emerson actually has played really, really well. I think he's been their slot corner overall for them. I know they still have Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward out there. Really, the secondary is actually kind of a strength of this team overall. Grant Delpit has played really well. I know we loved him coming through the draft process. John Johnson has played exceptionally well as well. It makes me wonder, like, how much are we going to try to use our tight ends, try to exploit their secondary, because the safeties are good. The safeties can cover. No, maybe this is a game you try to run, down the middle. Try to go through Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan. We could try. I think that we absolutely need to get the run game going. I think it's something that they wouldn't really expect with Justin Herbert's arm. Maybe this is a week that you bring a rookie and give a rookie 5 carries.
Flip the script. Come on. When are we going to see a Spiller sighting? And I am still just waiting for my Josh Kelly breakout game. So I'm gonna switch it. I'm switching it. I need to see my RB2 show up. I don't care who it is. It could be Michelle at this point. I need an RB2 to give that relief to Eckler like we were all expecting them to. We have a much deeper room. I think the production with Eckler out of the game is so important. So if we can continue the momentum with Eckler in the game with him out, I think that's going to be critical. So just get somebody behind him on the depth chart getting rolling early, and build some confidence, because I think that's going to carry us far as we move later into the season.
I'm much more excited about our running back depth this year than I was last year.
Sure.
But it still hasn't come up. I mean, Isaiah Spiller, I don't think has been active a single game.
I think you're right.
And Sony Michel and Joshua Kelly this year is an upgrade over Larry Roundtree, Justin Jackson. What is going on here? We need to get this run game moving. We need Matt Filer to play better. Zion Johnson has played phenomenal.
He's great.
I think we need to we shouldn't be worse in the run game this year than we were last year. There's no reason for it.
It's really
baffling. We
baffling.
need to get it moving. Maybe we built a little bit of confidence against Houston, but still it hasn't been very efficient overall. It was more efficient than being last, in terms of the run game. We need to get it going. It opens up so much of the offense having a threat on the run, and we got to figure it out, because if we wait until 16, 17, week 18, I mean, we're not going to be a threat throughout the playoffs. We're not going to be a threat throughout the rest of the season. We got to get it moving. Final score predictions.
Ooh. Let's go with keeping in the win column. I am. Where are we? We need a showing offensively. 34 points was all right. I'm panicking. I think it is going to be kind of lower scoring than we saw last year. So I'm going to go 28-20, a dominant performance from that defense. I'm thinking 28-14, give up 2 kind of field goals there in the end for them to kind of scrape their way. I like 28-20, but in a lot more dominant game for the Chargers than that score will lead you to believe.
I'm gonna do something that makes everybody listening mad, and I'm gonna go against the Chargers. I still don't think we match up very well, and I still don't think we have an identity on offense with Keenan Allen out of the lineup. I know last year Mike Williams had an outstanding game, like a phenomenal game.
He was insane.
He played so well. Denzel Ward did not play that game. The Chargers had a shootout with Baker Mayfield. And I don't think that's going to be their MO this game. I think that they are going to feed Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's going to get 25, 30 carries. You're going to get Kareem Hunt get another 10. I think it's going to be a 200-yard game on the ground overall between the two players. I think they're going to chew up the clock. And the Chargers are going to not be on the field offensively very long. The defense is going to get gassed, kind of like it did. What was that, week 3? When they just all that clock was eaten up by who do we play? The Jags. I think it's going to be a very similar situation unless the Chargers can get out to an early lead and force them out of the pass. I think that the way you win this game, you got to get out to a lead early, 3-touchdown lead by halftime, force them to throw the ball to Amari Cooper. You got to shade your coverage over to Amari Cooper because he's their main threat. Let Derwin James match up on David Njoku. I think he wins that matchup 9 out of 10 times. I think Njoku's a great receiver, a great route runner. He's really a good player, but I don't think he's any match for Derwin James. You got J.C. Jackson shadowing Amari Cooper. One of the players that I am actually really scared to see is Nasir Adderley, because Nasir Adderley's tackling and angles of pursuit are just so bad. He's the weak link on the defense right now. I think you use him to shadow over to Amari Cooper. You let Derwin James go man for man on the tight end, and Asante Samuel is going to lock out whoever he's lined up against. Usually it's probably going to be Peoples-Jones. If we can get out to an early lead, if we can come out hot, I think this is going to be like a 35-20 game. Okay. If we come out slow and we let the Browns control the time of possession, let them control the clock, let them just grind out and beat down on the defense, the Browns are going to win, 21-7. And that's kind of the situation. Are we going to be able to get them out of their game plan? We know what it is. We know what they like to do. Can the interior defensive line stay disciplined into their gaps? Can the linebackers stay disciplined in their gaps? Can we prevent the running backs from beating us? It could go one of two ways. We have to get out to an early lead, and it's going to be difficult because the secondary is good. Martin Emerson, Grant Delpit, John Johnson, Greg Newsome, who we haven't really talked a lot about, but Greg Newsome's a really good player in himself. It's going to be a tough game. Mike Williams is not the type of receiver who creates separation from himself, and Denzel Ward is very fast. It's going to be a lot of contested catches. Mike Williams is really good at it, but Denzel Ward is a premier corner in this league.
I'm going to make one more prediction. I do think it's going to be a grinded out type of – my light level is so weird in this. Anyway, I think that the first half is going to be one of those grinded out kind of jockeying for momentum, big play kind of thing. I'm predicting a Chargers special team or defensive touchdown to kind of
that would be huge.
Spark this team into a dominant second half, which we have not yet seen from a Staley-led team, period. So that's going to be my prediction. Tough.
I want to see a third quarter 2 touchdown type of quarter.
Yeah.
Like I think we have struggled over the last 2 seasons, the last decade in the third quarter, realistically speaking. We need to get that situation figured out. What is going on when we're coming out of halftime and we're just so
sluggish?
Like that is such an important part of our season overall.
And that's why I'm going defensive or special teams touchdown, because the offense, you're expected to score. And I'm not saying that the other guys don't get excited about it, but you get extra excited for a defensive touchdown or a house call from the return game. So I think that is the momentum spark we need. Give it to me. Padres win 7-6 tomorrow in extra innings. And that's all I got. I'll see you guys next week.
I like the Padres.
Yeah, I'm throwing it in there.
Padres shout out. Let's go.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I probably shouldn't be, but I am.
If you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to come over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Really, really appreciate it. Once we get over to 100 subscribers, which we're building up to right now, we're right about 70. It allows us to kind of do some extra things and grow a little bit better. So please go ahead and do that. Zach, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I didn't know if you know this or not, but Sandbox Simulations free agency is going on right now. We got our all 22 league going into week 5 right now. I think I'm 2-2. That's been a lot of fun. We got a lot of stuff going on right now, but right now we got a football game on Sunday against an AFC opponent. This has implications onto our season. We need to win this game. We need to continue to build some momentum. Mm-hmm. As we continue to build this momentum, continue to listen to the Shark Therapy podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week.